So does it start automatically? Yep. All right. So I'm ready when you are.
All righty.
Jeez, I got 3 different drinks here. Cheers.
Yeah. Come on, there we. Here we go. Okay.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, JD.
So what are we going to talk about today? I think about maybe 3 subjects.
Sounds like a winter to me.
You know, it's been a wild year already. This ought to be an interesting year. Welcome everybody. It's Gail Force. I'm JD along with Gail there, and we're going to be talking about a couple different subjects today. I think we're going to talk about what's in the news. I know there's 2 things that are in the news here in the States. That we have the border wall that Trump wants to talk about. And we also have the government shutdown.
Absolutely.
And then I'd like to touch on something that you don't see in the news here that's happening over in Europe, and that's the Yellow Vest movement. And if a lot of people don't know what the Yellow Vest movement is, Gail will explain that here in a few minutes. But welcome everybody to Gail Force, and we also talk about cryptocurrencies, and they're not really in the news right now, so I think we'll skip crypto. You know, what's Bitcoin now? About 3,500?
About 3,500.
Yeah, so not a whole lot going into crypto news, but
it's only moved by like 0.5% or something.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It was up to 4,000 and it's pulled down to 3,570, so it's like a 3% pullback, and it's going to wash around there for a while. So.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about the government shutdown?
Shall we?
First of all, what is the government shutdown? I think it's basically just, what is it, non-essential employees are not getting paid?
Non-essential employees are furloughed. They call it furlough.
So what is a non-essential employee? If they're not essential, why do we have them around?
Because it makes life easier for people. They're non-essential people are the ones that like run the the national forest, or some of your stuff like something is convenient, like the people that track volcanoes and earthquakes and stuff like that. You know, parts of NOAA, the North.
Yeah, you know, that's something that could be run by the colleges, but then again, they're part of the government now, since the government pays all their bills.
Absolutely.
Government education at its best. But non-essential employees, but one of them I think is not essential, and that's the flight control for the airlines. You know,
that's, yes, and
they get paid by the government, but they actually get their money, like you said, from the tickets.
Yeah, so that's only a half truth. It's like the TSA agents and the air traffic controllers. Yes, they're under the branch of the federal government, but
that's a good beer.
Thank you.
By the way, I'm celebrating the New Year. So I would say they are essential.
They're essential, but the part that's non-essential, that's actually the only thing that's actually shut down, is the training of new TSA people. See, that's where the federal government,
still not getting their checks.
They're like going through, like cops going through the police academy, okay? But when they're going through the police academy, that's under the state or federal budget. Then when the cops actually go to a local town, then they're on the local town's budget. Well, the TSA agents that are actually going through your underwear and molesting you, and the I have a problem with some of it. You know, I mean, it's just kind of stupid.
It is. I mean, you wonder about some of the stuff.
I mean, when they take and fling a person out of a wheelchair, but that person keeps their job, I have a problem with that. Okay,
just, you know, in the private sector, you wouldn't have a job if they did half the stuff they're doing now. You know.
Absolutely not. So actually, the ones that actually, when it comes to that, is those in training to be TSA agents and stuff like that. Yeah. They're on the full federal budget, where the local ones are paid for by there's a tax and stuff put on your airplane ticket.
On your tickets, yeah.
You know, so
you think Trump's got like you say, he plays 3D chess, and you think this shutdown is not just because of the wall? You think there's something else?
I think there's probably more to it than even we can guess. Yeah, it's all the ones against it, Nancy Pelosi, Chucky Schumer, and all the rest of them, they were all for it when Obama was in there. What's different now?
Yeah, it's
different president. It's all politics. Trump's calling their bluff. He's showing how some of these federal employees, they're non-essential.
They're non-essential, so why are we paying them?
And they might not have it.
What gets me is they all get a nice pension that we pay for.
They might not have a job or a pension after this is over, and they'll have the Democrats to thank for it. You know.
Yeah, so this might not be all about the southern wall.
It's about bringing awareness to the criminal elements that are coming over the border, the murderers, the rapists, the thieves, the drug dealers, and they've actually caught hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of ISIS and Al Qaeda and known terrorists from some of these Arab countries and stuff.
So that brings us to our second subject, which is the wall.
The wall.
So, we were talking earlier, and of course Gail comes up with some unique insight here, and he thinks, again, Trump is playing 3D chess here, and it's not just about our wall that we want to build on the border, but there's something happening in southern Mexico.
Correct.
That a lot of people don't know about because you don't hear the reports.
Well, so, it's not to their political advantage for you to hear about this.
Yeah.
Because when this caravan thing happened, a lot of the people from Guatemala and Venezuela, stuff like that, they decided just to stay right in Mexico because it was more their liking for the climate. Everybody spoke their language.
Oh, that's true.
So climatically, it wouldn't be that much of a trauma for their kids. So a bunch of them are staying in Mexico. Well, the very large criminal element coming in through Guatemala from all over the world of...
So you're saying some countries in the Middle East are importing...
Correct.
Immigrants into Guatemala in order to get shot up this way?
Correct. There's lots and lots and lots.
Can this be substantiated by some news reports?
Absolutely. They're actually, well, there was a guy in another one of the channels I watch. This guy's called Jeremiah Babe. He runs a security agency. Like he'll take and do, like if you've got a church or a synagogue or something going on, he has his own security agency. He finds out a lot of information. One of the local TV stations was paid and sent down to check out the wall and come to find out that the wall will work. Yeah. And because CNN was trying to make it look differently, the local stations suing CNN for big bucks.
Yeah, I saw that in Los Angeles, I guess.
Correct.
They called CNN, or CNN wanted them to do a report on the wall, so they went out and did the report, and CNN changed the whole report. And the TV station is like, hey, whoa,
no time's on this one. We're not going to play that game.
So CNN is playing games. Most of your news media are playing games. But we think there's another wall being built. And
correct.
It's not on our border.
Correct.
Where's this wall being built?
It's being built on the southern part of Mexico.
And it's not a physical barrier.
Oh, yes, it is.
Is it? I thought it was like a man barrier.
Both.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a shorter distance across the southern border of Mexico than there is U.S. border going across the Rio Grande.
So you're saying Mexico is building a wall on the southern border. So Mexico is...
They're building a wall. They're paying for a wall. A wall, okay? And when people says that there's...
Oh. My laptop.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
don't worry about me.
Okay, so you
Just
went in
ignore me
sleep
as I
mode, okay?
do this kind of stuff, yeah.
Okay, so what happened is because of all the people that Interpol's looking for, these Islamic terrorists and stuff like that, are coming to Guatemala and stuff, and going to be shipping up north. Mexico, and if they're afraid if Trump gets his wall pretty much built and brings the troops home and stands them shoulder to shoulder along the thing,
That all these people will be stuck in Mexico.
they'll be stuck in Mexico. So the president of Mexico has activated 500,000
Are you hearing this, people? You listening?
of their National Guard troops to help with their southern border as they quote complete. It's not going to be total steel. They got more barbed wire and stuff like that than we do. We're building a solid wall. They're doing like a patrolled wall.
Yeah.
And Mexico's
So Mexico is paying.
they're building
for
a
a
wall. They're paying for a wall, not the wall.
So look, I didn't vote in the last election. I didn't have a dog in the race.
Well, you
but
were a
can see
libertarian.
Trump- yeah, I'm a true libertarian. I'm a true liberal in the sense of the real word liberal, not these Pelosi people. Matter of fact, you think your life is bad. Imagine there's a Mr. Pelosi out there. But yeah, I didn't vote in the last election, but I think Trump is doing a lot of good stuff. Stuff behind the scene that you don't see on the news, because all the news is talking bad about him all the time. And they do that with all the Republicans. When Obama was in office.
If you said anything, you were racist.
Yeah, all the news stations, they were on vacation for 8 years. There was no hard news on the presidency. But of course, when a Republican gets elected, it's full bore.
Because news media is run by socialists.
Yeah, behind the scenes, Trump's doing a lot of stuff you don't know about, like regulations. For every new regulation that comes out, they get rid of 2 regulations.
Correct.
They make it easier for business to do business, and that's in your life, when you go to live your life, you buy from a business. You don't buy from the government. And they're making it easier for the businesses to run, making things cheaper, so we keep the prices from going up. And prices go up from inflation, and the only thing that causes inflation is government action. So hopefully there's less government action going on with Trump. I think Trump's doing a pretty good job that you don't hear about, behind the scenes. And he does play 3D chess. What's going on
a lot of people don't realize
what's going on with Kim Jong-un in North Korea.
Kim Jong-un, yeah.
So,
but actually, if you get into some of these guys they're running security places now, and they still have people that they know, and they run security things, and they run protection things, and they help recruit troops for Blackwater and things like that. There has been at least 12 confirmed assassination attempts on Trump that the American public doesn't even realize.
See, I don't have time to check all the news because, I'm a working man. I got to work for a living, so I leave that up to...
Us retired people do that stuff, okay?
I mean, like, every time I talk to Gail, it's like something new is like, all right, I got to check this out. I'll let you check it out and see. So.
It's like several months ago when I told you about the Yellow Vest starting up.
And we'll be talking about that in a few minutes. But let's finish this southern border crisis that's happening. And, we are going to probably end up sending troops down there. I don't know if they're going to end up... Do you think they're actually going to end up building any of the wall?
Yes.
All right. So we'll see if that happens. But we do know, most likely, that Mexico is concerned about their own sovereignty, and that Trump is going to close the border off, and they're going to be stuck with all the Guatemalans and all the terrorists coming through. And Mexico is actually going to be building their wall.
Correct. And here's one of the things and I heard on regular news, and I went, whoop, you said what? One of Trump's, when you play cards, you've got jokers in the deck.
Yep.
One of the Trump card jokers he's pulling out of the deck is because he's declaring this a national emergency.
Maybe.
We're still under a declaration of war.
That's right. Yeah,
we were under a declaration of war, and both houses of Congress approved it for the war on terror. since there was no, when you declare war, you have to declare peace. And if you don't, it's still in effect.
Still in effect.
So under the War Act here,
Powers Act.
that's still in effect, he can easily declare a national emergency because there's terrorists coming over the border.
Yeah. Now,
If Mexico doesn't do something, here's the thing that I heard, and I went and checked into it. Trump said what he's going to do is if they don't help us and cooperate, he has the power that Western Union can send Mexicans grass mowing checks to Mexico from the United States.
Yeah. Well, easily, because all the banks are controlled by the government. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, he's got a hammer that he can thump on them with, because if you ever go to the grocery store on Saturdays or the gas station that has Western Union, you got a bunch of people standing there.
And if you shut that off, what are they going to do? Well, unless they go to Bitcoin, and we won't talk about Bitcoin and digital coins. That's shit. You don't want the government to know that. But damn, what was I just going to say? The so-called immigrants or aliens coming over the wall, and Trump is saying it's a security issue because we have terrorists coming through. Well, then you see the liberal media saying, well, they might have caught one or two terrorists, but it's not that many. But I always like to turn things around on the liberals, and I do the same thing on conservatives when I think they get a little screwy. Mm-hmm. But the liberal media will say, well, they've only caught a couple terrorists. It's not like there's thousands of terrorists coming through. Do we really need to go through a wall to stop a couple terrorists? But if we save just one child by stopping these terrorists, isn't that worth it? I mean, that's what liberals say. We need to stop guns because we just save one child. Well, we need to do that. If we only if we only stop one or two terrorists, we're saving that child.
And how many
liberals, watch what you say, because we'll just
there is confirmed about 1,200 actual known terrorists wanted by Interpol in the last year and a half that they've caught.
If you hear from the CNN, it's only one or two. So
that they've caught.
Yeah. So how many have actually gone through, through?
So let's go with their numbers. Let's go with their numbers. There's only one or two a month.
Just one.
Okay, let's go with one or two a month.
Okay.
How many terrorists did it take to bring down the Twin Towers?
Yeah.
One.
So not to turn it around on people, but that's how we do it. All right. So Mexico is paying for the wall.
A wall.
I don't think Trump actually said which wall, but
he said pay for a wall. Pay for a wall on the southern border is what he said.
Border, whose wall? So if Mexico has to build their wall to keep out the Guatemalans, then cheers, Mexico, or as they say, salud.
Salud.
Salud. So now on to our next subject. Oh, by the way, real quick.
Cerveza.
Tres mos. Cerveza. Before we get on to our next subject, which is the yellow vest, I just want to remind everybody you can catch us on YouTube under Gail Force Creations, on BitTube under Gail Force. I don't know if you're into Steemit, but if you like Facebook, you got to check out Steemit. I'm going to start posting on Steemit. What else am I missing?
Go to Every Bit Matters.
Oh, Every Bit Matters on Facebook. Every bit matters, because right now you need to be buying Bitcoin or Litecoin or any kind of coin, even Doggy Coin.
Dogecoin, yeah.
Dogecoin, whatever it is. What are you in now? Digibyte?
Digibyte's going to be a good one. Yeah. Because you start, well, we're not going to get into crypto.
Yeah, we'll leave that for another show when we talk cryptos.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to be the news pretty soon. So I say we go on to the yellow vest. How many people here in the States know who the yellow vest is? And what is the yellow vest movement?
Yes, I do.
What do they say in France? It's not salute, is it?
I don't know.
We were there not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to start a whole new video?
No, we're still going. We're doing good.
Okay, well.
I'm just on to the next subject. I think we got to get into the yellow vest, because a lot of people here in the States, I've only seen I think it's maybe two reports on ABC News about the yellow vest movement. Now they're not talking about it. But what is the yellow vest movement?
Okay, the yellow vest
What is the yellow vest, by the way, and why do they call it the yellow vest movement? Let's do that first.
Let's start
and then we'll
there.
tell you what the yellow vest movement is, because people in the States, you're not going to believe this.
Okay, if you're in France, which is a very socialistic country, if you have to drive a car, to get a driver's license in France or Germany, and insurance is just a real mess. You have to have in France, you have to have the triangles and stuff in the trunks if you break
The
down.
reflectors.
Yeah, kind of like we do.
Because we know their vehicles break down all the time,
Yeah.
because they're not made by GM or Ford.
Yeah, like you have commercial vehicles. If you see a truck outside the road, they got the triangles and stuff.
Yeah.
And you also must have a flashlight, and you have to have a yellow vest, and you have to put the yellow vest on, so any citizen or police officer that sees you, the yellow vest is to keep you from being run over and to alert people that you need help.
Yeah.
It stands for I need help.
Help me. Something's wrong.
Well, good old Macron.
Who is the leader of France, by the way? I know a lot of people don't know. I saw a video where most kids nowadays can't even pick out the United States of America on a map, and this is with college degrees.
And
So
they're
just to
going
let you know
Yeah.
that Macron is the leader of France. Okay, kind of like our Trump.
Nah, he's kind of like our Joe Biden. But
Yeah. Okay.
Macron is actually, believe it or
By
not,
the way, you got to drink heavily when you watch our show. Okay.
there you go. And I just did the Stella Artois.
Ah,
If you look into the history of Macron, he was put there.
is that a cookie? Isn't there a kind of cookie?
Yeah, that's a macaroon. Macaroon, which is macaroon, and it's like the Macarena, or he's a moron. Anyway, he actually worked for the European Bank. He worked for one of the Rothschild banks. And then they put him off in the government, put him up there as a puppet for the bank.
So you're saying that he's backed by the banks, huh?
He's backed by the banks. And so he got in there, and the world economy is slowing down. It just is. It goes through cycles.
Yeah, we're past the 10 years, so we need to go into recession just to flush
There
everything
needs
out.
there needs to be a big pullback, 25, 30%.
Yeah.
Flush the commode and start over.
Okay, back to the yellow vest.
Okay, so he was doing what he was ordered to by the banks. And there's a slowdown. People are having a hard time making it. They're just monetarily, they're not doing good. And because they've got all of the migrants coming in the country, they keep raising taxes to pay for taking care of the migrants.
It's like their welfare system that we have here. They
Correct.
have all these illegal aliens coming in, except they don't call them illegal aliens.
They call them migrants.
Migrants. So we have to help them. Refugees. I think it's a better word. Refugees.
Refugees and migrants. But then, what do? Bankers are greedy. Politicians are owned by the banks. They decide to come up with this idiotic carbon tax on top of everything else.
This was the Paris Agreement that Trump got us out of, thank God.
Correct. Well, Trump opened up all of our oil fields and stuff like that right now.
Yeah.
So the price of oil is down worldwide. Our gasoline's down below $2 a gallon in Florida and several
Yeah.
other states.
I'll take that.
But Macron wanted to fling the carbon credit tax on top of the gasoline, and this time he also wanted to throw it on top of. See, there was a discount for farmers. Fuel it's a non-highway tax.
Yeah.
Okay? He was going to add the carbon tax onto
that.
just like was highway tax. They were going to be taxed the same as cars.
Yeah.
People were down to the point where they had like $10 a week left over after paying their bills, and you can't go to the movies on $10 a week.
So
You can't do it.
So what's happening with the Yellow Vest movement? What is
They
this?
started a
What's
protest.
Happening? What's happening in Paris?
They started a protest over it, trying to get Macron to talk to him. he just kind of poo-pooed it, and then it started
So
going.
you're saying it's only like 10 or 20 guys getting out on a corner there and saying, hey, don't tax me because I might be a farmer. I mean, can 10, 20 guys, 30 guys really change the country?
One of the...
I think you're messing with me. I think these 30 guys can't do that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things 6 weeks ago, they're doing this as a weekend thing.
It's been going on that long? How long?
Oh, yeah. About 6 weeks. 6 weeks or 7 weeks. And one of the protests, there was over 300,000 people that showed up.
Are you hearing that, people? 300,000 people are, I wouldn't say rioting, but they're kind of protesting in Paris, big city. If y'all don't know it, but Paris is a big city in France, and that's a country across the ocean here, across the Atlantic. Just a little bit east of Britain. If you don't know Britain's an island, by the way. It's for the college kids out there that don't know the geography. Right. You have Britain there, and Ireland. France is another country over there. 300,000 people protesting, but not only in Paris and throughout France, but it's getting bigger. What's happening? Is it growing?
Oh, much bigger. When we first did this, when I started talking to JD here about 6 weeks ago, I have my wife's relatives that still live in Germany. And we posted it on Facebook, and they were making comments. Oh, it's much worse than that here.
Yeah.
I have a brother-in-law that lives in Cologne, Germany, which is in northwest Germany, right close to Belgium. He went over to the Netherlands because he has a Volkswagen Passat or with the diesel one, and the diesel was almost 50 cents a gallon cheaper in the Netherlands than it was in Germany.
Oh, by the way, I just want people to know that here in Gail Force, we were one of the first to report on the Yellow Vest movement. I mean, you still haven't seen it on the news, really. I mean, I've seen 1 or 2 reports on some of the major news sites. But Gail here brought this up. We did this 6 weeks ago, and now it's getting bigger. It has moved to London. The Yellow Vest movement is now causing problems in London. And the protest is not over just the gas tax.
Oh, no. It's over all taxes, and... So shall we stay in France, or do you want to go to England?
We can go either way. I mean,
we'll go to England and then back to France.
It just gets me that, you'd think that tax protests would start here in the United States because we're pretty heavily taxed. But it's actually happened in Europe. Of all places, they're protesting taxes in Europe where they love to pay taxes. I mean, we're told by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and this new chick, whatever, that
Ocasio-Cortez.
We have to pay our fair share, and we're not taxed near as bad as Europe. Well, apparently they're getting tired over in Europe, and the people in Europe are now wearing their yellow vest. It's not the prettiest vest. I'm sure that, if you're a good socialist, you'd want to wear something like Pelosi would probably put a scarf around it or whatever. But they're actually protesting in Europe over high taxes. You get that? High taxes? Ridiculous.
Let's go to you said London, so let's go there before we go back to regular Europe, because they're almost.
I'm a reporter on the streets of London.
Okay, because they're almost in full revolution in Sweden. But what these reporters were telling me, or they were reporting, because I got some other sites I go to, that in England, because Theresa May has screwed up the Brexit thing. And, it's going to be another 3-4 years. We're going to have to take a re-vote. Now, they took a vote.
They did that 2 years ago.
So, for London and England, the yellow vest is going to be because they're honked off. They voted for Brexit. The banks own too many of the politicians. They don't want to take and have Brexit. See, there is no reason why England can't leave it. They have their own currency.
Yeah,
they're not in the euro.
Yeah, they just decided to join just to be part of the game.
They joined it for trade, but they kept their own currency. So if they break away, they still have their own currency. It's not like if Italy wanted to go back to using the lira, or the Germany went back to using the Deutschmark. Okay, they still got their own currency.
Yeah, they're still sovereign.
They had their own sovereign currency called the British pound. The pound sterling.
Pound sterling.
Sterling silver, by the way.
So the Yellow Vest movement has now moved to London. And so now we have a bunch of Europeans protesting over high taxes, which is unheard of. You know, we thought they were supposed to be good socialists and that you were supposed to pay your fair share. Well, apparently the people in Europe are tired of paying their fair share. And they want the politicians to pay their fair share. So if you haven't heard the Yellow Vest protest, it's protest not just over the carbon tax, but over taxes in all. And everybody is just being way overtaxed. And this could really hurt things, because you told me something about Italy, where the leader of Italy wants the Yellow Vest movement to do what to the banks. I mean, this could be the beginning of the coming recession or the coming depression. Imagine if there was a run on the
banks. So the president of Italy, who is kind of their version of a Donald Trump that believes in nationalism, he is trying to politically support the Yellow Vest movement, and he's encouraging them over the weekends to withdraw as much currency as possible as you can out of the bank, to have kind of a mock run on the bank. Now, banks already have things instituted where if you use a 24-hour machine,
you can't.
There's a limit of how much you can withdraw per day. Whether it also depends how much money you got in the bank. It could be anywhere from some people can't get more than a couple $100. The average person gets $400. Some people can get $600 or $700 out in a day. But there's limits. It isn't like you can go in there, if you got $10,000 a bank, you can take it all out.
Let me do a quick explanation here of what a bank run is, because a lot of people, we haven't had a bank run decades. The biggest one is probably during the Depression. And what a bank run is people get scared that banks might go under, that the money's really not in the bank. So what they do is they run to their bank and try to withdraw all their money that they have in savings. Okay, and this is what happened in the Great Depression, and it actually probably caused more of a depression, but everybody went to the banks to get their money out. And you've seen it on, what's that movie, It's a Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life.
A bank run. So they go pull all their money out, and now the banks have no money. They can't do their business, so the bank closes, and the people who didn't get their money out lose because they don't have their money. They didn't get their money. A bank run is really, really bad, and if a bank run happens in the States or anywhere, and it's a domino effect. Okay.
It creates a credit freeze.
The banks don't have your money. There's no money in a bank. It's just, a bank is just, they have a computer and they just add numbers and zeros or whatever.
Correct.
It says that's how much money you have, but you don't have a box in there with your money in it. There's no money in the banks. The banks don't have no money. And if everybody goes and says, well, I want my money out of the bank, and the bank doesn't have the money, then people lose confidence in their bank.
Correct.
And this causes things to domino, and this is basically what caused the Great Depression, even though it was government caused by the stock market. We haven't seen this in 100 years, and it could be happening pretty soon here. And
Correct.
Now in Europe, they're encouraging people to make a bank run because they're tired of not only the banks but of the government stealing the money. And Italy now, from what Gail says, and I haven't confirmed this, but I'm sure I will. I take it upon him. He's been pretty good. He hasn't misled me yet. But if they do a bank run in Europe, hang on, folks. Okay, just hang on.
But
you
the thing
be
is,
stocking a little bit of food just in case.
well, they're starting out with the weekend bank run, not a during the week thing. So they're not actually trying to collapse the banks. They're trying to make a statement.
Yeah.
Okay, because of the fractional reserve banking system, there isn't any more than 10% of actual money available.
Yeah.
And
we'll
most
do a
banks.
show about that one time. We'll do a show about Jekyll and Hyde, and we'll explain that.
Yeah.
That's a couple hours right there.
Oh yeah, the creatures from Jekyll Island.
Yeah. Wait till you hear that story.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to read something.
So Italy is
encouraging people.
Italy is encouraging to take some money out and scare the banks, and
Right.
then the banks will tell Macron, because he's a puppet, to back off and
Yeah.
So, in case you haven't heard it, folks, the Yellow Vest movement is a protest, not of carbon taxes. That's just another way to steal your money, but of just taxes in whole, because taxation is theft.
Right.
If anybody really wants to do some research and find out where the original taxes started from, it was a way to steal your money.
Right.
Yeah, taxes is not to give you better roads or to give you the police department or to give you this or that. Taxes is just a way to steal your money. Okay, just basic.
Absolutely.
So I think we had a pretty good show today.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it started out as just a simple protest, and everybody left, right, in the middle going, wait a minute. Let's make a statement before it gets so far out that the banks literally own us.
And it's nice that people are kind of realizing this.
They're waking up that the
They're waking
banks
up.
run and own too much.
Yeah. Because, it's an interesting fact that when you take out a mortgage to buy a house, you take out a mortgage to buy your house, but by the time you paid all the interest, you've actually bought 3 houses. I mean, you paid enough to buy 3 houses.
Anywhere between 2 and 3 houses.
Yeah,
So if you were to
the
borrow,
the banks are making out when you take out a mortgage.
if you borrowed $100,000,
You pay back what, $300,000?
you pay back $300,000.
Yeah, banks are making out.
Especially if you do a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
The amortization of that thing is
Yeah,
like,
just ridiculous.
whoa.
Yeah. So you're not buying 1 house, you're buying 3 houses. Well, 2.5
So
houses.
the extra money tacked on to buying a house, what does the bank do with it? Where is the
That
bank's
it goes in
money?
their pockets.
It's paid out in dividends to the stockholder.
See, we even have a live audience here, folks.
It's paid out in
Hey.
dividend to stockholders.
You told me something interesting about the gold ratio about buying a house.
Oh,
What's
yes.
that? Let's real quick put that
Well,
in before we end the show because we're kind of
yeah,
running
because-
over here.
The thing is JD and I talked about that with silver, that in like 1964, an ounce of silver or a silver dollar could buy you 5 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
So in today's thing with silver, it can buy you about 5 gallons of gas.
Yeah. So gas is not going up.
Correct.
The value of gas is the same. An ounce of silver.
It's
will
a
buy you
commodity.
will buy you the same amount as it did 50 years ago.
Correct.
But it takes more
Of paper currency
paper
dollars.
money. So your dollar is worth less.
So hard commodity to hard commodity is the same.
Same.
175 ounces of gold bought an average house 100 years ago, and 175 ounces of gold right now, it was what, $227,000 what yesterday's price.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, average price of a house, between
about
$200,000 and
$250,000.
$250,000.
Yeah. So the price, the value of a house hasn't gone up, but the price of the house has gone up, which means
The
it takes more of your
fiat
dollars.
price, the fiat price has
Yeah,
gone up.
it takes more of your paper.
It's still about 175 ounces of gold to
Yeah.
buy an average house,
The stuff you learn here.
and
on
5
the
ounce and 1 ounce of silver buys you 5 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
Commodity to commodity, it's all the same. Paper fiat currency is the problem.
Yeah. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed what we kind of gave you in the news situation. This is our first show of the year. Sorry it's taken so long, but the holidays kind of wear me out. But we hope you join us for future shows. We want to try to get out 2 or 3 shows a week now.
Sounds like a winner to
We'll figure
me.
it out. And I kind of like this setup. This works.
Alrighty.
Yeah. We just need to get some more lighting and maybe a makeup artist and maybe some wardrobe or something. And
Have Kim walk around with a scorecard.
there you go. Ding, ding. Next round. Again, you can see us on Facebook. Every bit matters. You got to be buying a little bit of digital coin. Comes in handy. Or will come in handy. You can catch us on BitTube under Gail Force, under YouTube under Gail Force Creations. And we'll see you pretty soon.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
Fantastic. Ching.